When I got the word that this man, our keynote speaker, was willing to come speak, unpaid by the way, because I'm not paid either, and neither is he, and that he had been a official Trump presidential campaign surrogate, and that he was on the National Fair Tax Organization board, I couldn't say no. Matter of fact, I said, "Thank you, Lord. Prayers have been answered." So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to introduce Mr. Autry Pruitt. Autry, please come on up and give this man a great Louisiana welcome. Let him know how much you appreciate Donald J. Trump. I don't hear you. All right. Thank you so much.
It's a small podium. I'm a little more serious than some of the previous speakers you've had, so bear with me. But before I begin, I want to first say thank you to all the Trump supporters who've supported me, to people who bought my book, to people who sent me great love, and thank you to Colonel Manus. And to our vets. Veterans, can you put your hands up? Where are the veterans? And wives of veterans, children, family members. Yeah. I don't want to keep, my grandmother used to tell me, don't make folks glad twice. Glad when you get up and glad when you sit down, so I'll leave my thanks short. The mainstream press and the elite politicians are still in denial, not only about the election, but about the real pain Americans are facing. These graduates of Harvard and Yale and Stanford, they have great sympathy for everybody. If you're Yemenis, come on in. Iraqi, doesn't matter. They have great sympathy for everyone except for fellow Americans. The elites continue to ignore those of us who have been staring in the mirror of American history, seeing promise, but presently only living in pain. They do not understand that today, the elites don't understand that today, most Americans occupy a harsh space between an America that was and an America that is. Even after this historic electoral rebuke, the political elites seem to be focused on who met what Russian ambassador and at what party and when. Arnold Schwarzenegger quitting The Celebrity Apprentice. And which, by the way, Trump called, but that's a side note. I could, never mind. Let me not get off script. We got a limited time. And who will? Who said that? This is like church. And who will or won't sell Ivanka Trump products? It is as if the media and the political elite experienced an entirely different election in another country. The establishment has started now to say all the right things. The establishment has started now breaking their necks to get into a photo op with President Trump. And you will always find them ready to clap at the right moment. But if I could borrow and modify advice from St. Matthew, beware of the elites, for they come to us in sheep's clothing, but on the inside, they are really vicious wolves.
All right.
Make no mistake, the elites are scheming right now on how to either convert President Trump and all of us, or how to undermine President Trump and all of us. So I've come all the way from Austin, Texas, to give our new liberty movement a warning. Once an elite, always an elite. How can we be so foolish to believe that a senator or congressperson who has spent 20 plus years in office voting for globalism suddenly believes in America first? That's right. We need to flush it. How can we be so blind to accept that the so-called conservative politicians, let me stress the words so-called politicians, who have spent their lives being a political chameleon, ducking and diving, changing their color to fit the crowd they are in, how can we be so blind to believe that they are suddenly authentic? We cannot afford, as Trump supporters, to be that foolish. We cannot afford, as Americans, to be that blind. These wolves, these elites, folks, these men and women are measured. They're controlled. They're smart. I know Nancy Pelosi to the contrary, they are. Look at what's happened. Just a couple of days ago, many in the conservative establishment took no pause to throw Attorney General Jeff Sessions under the bus. If you paid attention to the news, the fake news, not the news we watch, the fake news, General Flynn was already marginalized in conservative media even before he got the nod to be National Security Advisor. And Andrew Putzer was blown to smithereens because he did something the left wants everybody to do: unknowingly employ an illegal alien. This should be a warning that the conservative and liberal elites are not dead. They are aligned. These statements are not exaggerations, they're not speculations. You don't need any special degree to come to this understanding. Just look at the examples we have before us. I just heard Paul Ryan say, 3 weeks and you'll have an Obamacare plan. 3 weeks and we will repeal. 3 weeks? How many years has it been since Obamacare has been passed? 7? Why wait another 3 weeks? It makes me wonder, do the conservative elites ever truly believe they would be able to repeal Obamacare? And worse yet, did they really want to? No. Did the leadership, whatever that means, ever conceptualize a true replacement to make healthcare affordable? The establishment over the past 8 years had 50 some odd votes in some form or fashion that would have gotten rid of Obamacare, and now that they are in power, we can't get one. Did you see Rand Paul on TV dragging through the halls of the Capitol? He was dragging a photocopier. He went up to the room, H-157, Area 157 was what we'll call it from now on. He knocked. May I see the plan? Hello? Hello? Literally, not figuratively, literally, the establishment is locked behind a closed door, tinkering with our lives.
They always do. What socialized medicine?
That's true. But the real irony The real irony is that President Obama passed his universal stealing money healthcare proposal in the same way the establishment is drafting theirs, locked behind a closed door with no real conservative input. If you listen to the establishment, they have used the words of the mainstream media. They have used the words of the elites. We have to do it right. We don't want to make the same mistakes as Obama. We want to repeal and replace at the same time. The right thing to do is to repeal Obamacare. Yeah. The mistake was passing Obamacare. Yeah. And guess what? If you repeal it, it's replaced with the free market. Yeah. So I'm asking Speaker Ryan, I'm asking these wolves, elites, establishments, and graduates, there's some children here, so let me clean it up. Sorry. I forgot where I was for a moment. I'm asking, where is the bill? They could pass the legislation right now, but even the mainstream media reported that senior Republican lawmakers, translate that as Speaker Ryan, are behind the scenes being more blunt. They're saying they have no problem steamrolling conservatives. In other words, they have no problem steamrolling you and your kids. I don't know about you, but I didn't want Obamacare, and I certainly don't want leadership care. We've almost gotten steamrolled on debt and deficits. Trump talked about the debt. He talked about the deficits. Why isn't the leadership talking about debt and deficits? Right now, every single tax-paying person owes the American government $875,000, almost $1 million to pay off the national debt. And I'm not talking about this little 20 trillion debt that they like to throw at you. I'm talking about the real national debt. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, Federal Employee Pension Fund. That's the real story. When I was growing up, and I was only 37, conservatives used to talk about debt and deficits. When I was growing up, Democrats even talked about debt and deficits. The elite from day one should not spend more money than what the government makes. There should be someone to stand up for us and just say, stop. Donald Trump talked about tax reform. Donald Trump talked about the fact that the idea that the federal government gets your money before you get your money, there's a problem with that. You realize, right, by the time you get the check, if you're on a W-2, by the time you get the check in your bank account, the government has snatched out their portion of your money. Not their money, your money. I know you're hearing we've got to be cautious because we're hearing all the right things, but they're setting us up for a doozy. I don't even call it tax reform, I just call it a tax refresh. The elites say they're going to reduce the number of tax brackets. All right. They're going to close some hedge fund loopholes. Okay. They're being all fancy and talking about border adjustability. I could talk about that, but we'll save that for now. I don't want to put you to sleep yet. And they want to increase the amount of refunds that we're going to get. That's what the establishment. Donald Trump asked for a tax cut, and right now the establishment is tinkering with the idea that you won't get an immediate tax cut, you'll just get the cut on the quote-unquote back end. And they're going to bring down the corporate tax rate. But I want to ask, why aren't the conservatives committed to the Trump tax policy, a true middle-class tax cut? They should be committed to the real conservative concept that small businesses and restaurants don't really pay taxes. That money is passed on in the terms of less benefits, less wages, higher consumer prices to all of us. Let me be so bold as to even go a little bit step further than Donald Trump and say a true conservative tax policy would roll back the withholding provision. Imagine if every single one of us had to write a check every month to the IRS. Even our friends on the other side of the aisle would pay much closer attention to where the government puts our money. Lastly, let me get to culture. This is an important one for me, and it's a touchy topic because people, even though we're in the era of, getting rid of political correctness, and, we're Americans, we don't want to hurt people's feelings unduly. We don't want to see people crying on the street. I'm not talking about snowflakes, I'm talking about real pain. We don't want to see that. But there's something happening amongst the conservative elite we need to be cautious of. No one's talking on Capitol Hill about the fact that there are Americans that hate America, that our culture is becoming increasingly violent. Everyday conservatives should be bringing up incidents such as the Texas elementary school student who was beaten so badly by his classmates for voting for Trump in a mock election. 4th grade, he ended up in the emergency room. A female California high school student out in all-inclusive LA was brutally beaten by a classmate for supporting Trump. And then there was a mentally challenged man who expressed support for Trump, who was kidnapped and tortured by 4 thugs. No one's talking about that. No one in the elite is talking about that, let alone talking about what are we going to do when the Democrats try to bring forth free tuition. That's coming. They're going to try it. What are we going to do when they try to increase occupational licensing? I don't know if you know what occupational licensing is, but here in Louisiana, woo! You guys, I don't know if you realize this, but close to 27% of your industries, you have to have a special license from the government to work. That's a whole different ball of wax. We'll talk about that some other time. Now, I know we all were offended when we heard Secretary Clinton call us irredeemable. We were all awestruck when the Honorable Representative Maxine Waters told the world we're nothing but a bunch of scumbags. And our hearts perhaps sank when Mr. Chris Matthews referred to us as dogs. But having the elites talk about us like slave owners used to talk about slaves is of no real concern. What I am dismayed about is that in the thralls of our celebration, we must endeavor to not become foolish. The elites are not our friends. The media is not and will never be. This is so important because I see people getting lazy. The media is not and will never be on our side. They're not our friends. My friends aren't perfect, but my friends would care that I have trouble feeding my family. My friends can be crass, but they would never cheer at the collapse of my industry. My friends are not even always popular, but they have helped me when I'm financially broken. And most of all, my friends tell me the truth. We voted for Trump because he was the first presidential candidate we felt was a real friend. It's the first time in our life we felt that a presidential candidate risked their own complete financial and reputation destruction to fight back on our behalf. We supported Trump because he exposed not only the decades of hypocrisy and lies, but he exposed the excuses. There was no greater moment of sunshine and clarity than in the debate when Trump looked at Hillary and said, "Girl, you've been in Washington for 30 damn years. Why haven't you fixed the problem? This is a dangerous time. This is a cautious time. And I want you to be willing to stand on guard. We are in a fight now for the very existence of the American soul. That's not hyperbole. I believe that with all of my heart. We must not capitulate. We must not give up any ground. They are not the resistance. We are the true resistance. We are the next freedom fighters. This moment in history may be America's last stand. The only way we will preserve our shining city on a hill is to understand the allegiance of our alliance is not centered on one man or a group of men, but found in original principle anchored in truth. The truth is that all are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the principle is America first. May God bless you, your family, and may God bless the United States of America.